Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. As you all probably know, and I talked about this in a video previously also, we are facing a food crisis, not just an inflationary crisis worldwide or in many developed countries especially, but we are facing a global food crisis already or very soon at least. And of course, our politicians and the media, they are blaming this on what is going on in Eastern Europe right now. However, I have my doubts if this narrative is really the correct one, or if they are just blaming it conveniently on what is going on right now there. It is maybe all too easy to blame it all on Putin, but I want to look at some key facts and key pieces of information that I have come across. So it seems to me, based on that information that I want to share with you, that there is just no will on the Ukrainian side and also not on the side of Ukraine's Western neighbors, the EU, the European neighbors, and the often cited international community, and also the elites that are right now in Davos, Switzerland. They just don't care, and I want to explain to you why, or show you why I think that that is the reason rather than evil Putin. But before we get into that, I want to thank my supporters and my subscribers once again. Like, share and subscribe if you like my videos, and if you want to, you can support me via Patreon or Subscribestar. Alright, so we all know that Ukraine exports a lot of wheat and a lot of oil seeds or seed oil. And I also explained in one of my past videos that a lot of developing nations or poorer countries are heavily dependent on wheat imports from Russia and Ukraine, both of which are, well, looking rather slim right now. So that we already know, and I think it is also safe to say that in the foreseeable future there will not be mass starvation in Western or Central Europe and not in the Northern Americas. We will have to struggle with higher food prices, as I already mentioned, inflation, and that is not only because of gas, but it is connected, also food. Everything goes up in price, in value, and that is why we might not be able to get all the food that we want, or we must restrict our diet here and there, our food choices, that is what I mean, and poorer people might not be able anymore to get a healthy or well-rounded diet with all the nutrients. That is also not good, but I think in poorer countries especially, we will actually see starvation. We will see real hunger, something that we don't have in Europe right now and probably will not be having. So let's be very clear what we're talking about. We are talking about higher prices, inconveniences, and maybe a reduced choice of food articles in more affluent Western countries, while we're talking about the prospect of real starvation in poorer countries. So what is going on in Ukraine now? Why are they not getting these over 100 million tons of grain that they harvested in 2021 out of the country? Why can't they export it? Because the wheat is there, they just can't export it. So it is very clear, and that is of course a direct consequence of Putin's military action. That is that the southern Ukrainian port towns are not able to process the wheat, because either that area is occupied by Russia already, or like Odessa, I heard that this is fortified, that there are mines in the sea, and it is not safe to ship the grain out there. That is something that is very clear, and nobody really debates that. The crucial question, however, is what are the other means of transportation you have here? What are the other ways that you can get this food, this grain out of the country? And that is, of course, on rail, and that is, of course, via road, by truck. In many other regions, grain is not transported by ship, but in fact on trucks. And there are definitely roads leaving the country to the west. There are roads leading into Romania, roads leading into Poland, and so on. So that would be an option. I also read that it is not easy to transport the grain by train because the railroad system, the gauges are different. So that is an obvious problem, and that is real. I get that. However, However, I think truck would be an option if all involved parties wanted to solve this. So let's look at the numbers here. Of the 107 million tons of grain before the war started, 43 million tons were already shipped out of the country. And that is of 70 million tons that were expected. So that means that round about 30 million tons are still in there and they can't get it out, or they haven't gotten it out yet because of the aforementioned problems. Maybe I should also mention why it is so crucial to get this stuff out fast. That is that they will be harvesting soon, and once they start harvesting, they must have all their logistics and all their silos, their storage facilities ready for the newly harvested grain. Because what I'm talking about right now is the grain, once again, that was harvested last year. That is the old grain that they haven't managed to get out of the country yet. And the thing is, if they don't have space in their storage facilities when the old grain from last year is still occupying the space, then they don't know where to put the newly harvested grain, and that will be a severe problem for this year and next year then, obviously. So that is the crucial thing here, and this is why time is a crucial factor here. So if you want to find reasons for why this can never work, you can go ahead and do that, of course. You can say, oh, the railroad system is different, and you would need many truck drivers that speak all these languages, and you need 10,000 trucks and 20,000 truck drivers and all this stuff, and this doesn't work. But yeah, I don't think so. I have a different opinion here. I say that there is no interest in solving that. Of course, I'm not denying that there are problems that need to be addressed. Of course, this is not a normal situation. I do understand that there are challenges, and you cannot just solve this situation by business as usual, but that is the point. You cannot treat these logistics problems with the usual methods or with business as usual. You have to introduce special measures in order to solve that, and they don't do that yet. So first I want to say that on the side of the Ukrainian government, there is no incentive whatsoever to solve this, because what they want is, of course, military equipment, and they have all the money in the world. They can just tell the US, hey, we need X amount of money, and then the US makes sure that some of their vassal states will give that money to the Ukrainian regime. That is not the problem, and as I said, there is no incentive here. They don't need the wheat income. But the farmers in Ukraine, oh, they need that, because I think that all this military aid and all this financial aid for the Ukrainian elites or people that are sitting somewhere in Switzerland, let's face it, that doesn't help Ukrainian farmers or the Ukrainian industry or the Ukrainian worker at all. So I found this really interesting report here that Ukrainian farmers are, of course, trying to solve the situation. They are trying to export their wheat to their customers in the West by truck. They're already trying that. They send a lot of wheat already out by truck, and they are reporting what they experienced there. They report that they had to wait in long queues of trucks at the border for days before they were allowed in, and that was because of some paperwork they needed and some bureaucracy at the Romanian border, for example. And also the truck drivers who are making these runs, they are really frustrated, and they say that they could get a lot of more wheat over the border if these customs inspections and all the bureaucracy was taken care of, and if we could find a more unbureaucratic solution like now we do with all the military aid. And this is my point. If the politicians, if the elites want to make exceptions, if they want to get something done, they always manage to get it done. If something is stopped by bureaucracy, it is because the elites want it that way, or they don't care. One of those two things. But if they want to get something done, it's done tomorrow. It was the same thing with closing the border. Merkel told us, oh, we cannot close the border, it's impossible. Yeah, once we had the China bug, the borders were closed. Boom. If they want to, they can do it. They just don't want to. And this is why all these trucks are waiting at the border and they can't go through. So what I'm suggesting is that you just put some kind of sticker on those trucks and you let them go through. You make a special operation, a special logistics operation. You send trucks also from the West. Western governments could do that if they wanted to. I think the logistics, the truck driving business has suffered in Europe also during the last 2 weeks, and that would be some nice boost they could get. You could get some truck conveyor belt between Ukraine and Europe, and that could deliver the wheat to all these global markets where it is expected and where it is needed. But I think that the elites don't want that. I told you that the Ukrainian elites have no incentive here because they get arbitrary amounts of money at the push of a button anyway, or one call to Washington and kaching. But also the Western elites, they don't want that. So I think when I heard these speeches of Mr. Habeck in Davos correctly, then I am led to believe that they are fully expecting thousands of people to be affected by hunger and starvation, but that is no reason for them to work towards a timely solution of this conflict. No, they want to drag it out even longer, and hunger and starvation in many parts of the world is not really something that they want to avoid at any cost or some cost even. They're fully aware of what will happen, and they're not even bothering to lower some bureaucratic restrictions at the border crossings so that those wheat trucks can come in faster. I mean, just register the drivers and the trucks, put some kind of sticker on the vehicle and wave them through. How hard can this be? If they wanted to find a way, a mechanism to make it work, once again, I'm fully convinced they could do that within a day. So unless you can explain to me why it is of vital interest for the global community and Europe that these wheat trucks have to wait for days and weeks before they can finally cross into Poland and Romania, unless you can explain that to me, well then I will assume that this food crisis is either wanted or tolerated by our elites. They either want it to happen or they don't bother to stop it. I don't know, maybe they are thinking, well, if there is starvation and hunger in some parts of the world, maybe these people will come to Europe and we can use them as cheap labor force, or maybe they can drive up real estate prices and make our countries more diverse. It worked so great the last time we did that. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about that, or what you have heard from your media in your country. Maybe you have some other information about that. And if you find this video interesting, share it with people. Take care. Servus, Kameraden.